Thanks, Nicole. My name's Eve, guys. I started a company called Mean Training back last year in June, and we're based up in Leicester. I joined MPE Accelerator Programme this March. And really, this story is my 7-month journey from where I started at the beginning of the year to now, and how I've changed. And I can see a lot of people that I know now from Leicester as well that have changed a lot through the Accelerator Programme and VIP. At the start of the year, I was very, very different. I was 37 pounds heavier. I took that picture because I realised how big I'd actually got in. I had a lot of, I guess, head trash. I had a lot of negative beliefs and a really poor self-image. I worked over 70 hours a week, and I had no money. In February, I paid myself about £850 of a wage. So all these kind of beliefs have been holding me back a long time. My story actually began when I lived back here in London. I struggled with illness all my life. I had a mental health disorder and it went undiagnosed. And I moved down to London to kind of get away from a lot of things and start like a new life, and I got into work. I found I was unemployed for a long time at home in Scotland, so I came down here and suddenly I was turning down jobs and everything was going really well. I was working 2 jobs. I met someone, we were really happy and my life was really great, and one day I went into the doctor's surgery and she offered me some medication to help me stop smoking. And it's called Champix, and I started taking it, and sure enough, it helped me stop smoking. But I didn't know it was an antidepressant, and it affected me in a really, really bad way. So, the long story short is, my personal training journey essentially started when I got really, really ill. I got to the point where I had a massive breakdown, long story short, I ended up in hospital not far from here. After about 6 months of taking this medication, I was hospitalised and I was put in a mental health ward in Ealing Hospital, about 5 miles down the road. There was nothing for me to do at this time, but to go and be looked after. I had nothing really left. I lost both my jobs. My partner left me, I had nowhere to live. I had absolutely nothing. I was the most vulnerable point in my life. I'd held on for a long time, but that was it. I was broken and I had nothing there. So I went home and I had to be looked after. And it was weight training then that really started to take the centre stage in my life. So I trained before through doing sports and so on. But at this point, it gave me mental fortitude. Like I lift heavy weights and it creates mental fortitude, and I needed that to become better. And it gave me something to build an identity with again. And it started to define me. So after so many months, I decided I would do my personal training diploma. I had no idea that I'd be successful. I had no expectation or knowledge of anything really. It was good to be, becoming well and to have something to do again. So it took me about 1.5 years of recovery, and I moved down to Leicester and I started working as a personal trainer. If you fast forward to February this year, I was working in the warehouse gym. There are 5 MPE clients that come out of the warehouse gym in the last year. Josh Rowlett's one of them. He's talking tomorrow, and he'll tell you he's had a massive transformation as well. And when I'm in the warehouse gym, I can see these guys and I can see the transformation right before my eyes. And I think the biggest thing and the most powerful thing was the way that they had this purpose and this drive that I'd never seen really before. Everything they did, it seemed to have a purpose, and they were driven towards something. And I didn't know what it was. But I seen this quote and it said, you either walk inside your own story, inside your story and you own it, or you stand outside of your story and you just hustle for your worthiness. And I knew which one I was doing. I still had really, really bad issues with my self-image. And I had really, really bad issues with what I thought was, sales and marketing was all about. I thought it was deceptive. I thought salespeople were out for themselves and they were manipulative, and that people weren't so stupid that they would believe all that kind of stuff anyway. I was a really, really negative person. I had a lot of issues. What I realised in the end was there was no issues with all these things. It was me. I believed that I was a fraud, that I wasn't good enough to charge money for what I did, that I didn't really have a lot of value in the world, and that people wouldn't want me to work with them. It was all right for everyone else to go around and do these things, but it wasn't okay for me. I realised this and it hit me really like a ton of bricks, and I think that's the day, I can remember it to the moment when it all changed, and I looked at all these guys and how successful they were, and it was disappointment. It was the most disappointing I've ever, how could I be so stupid and do this to myself? So I threw in a towel and I went and spoke to a guy, Mike Sweeney, and he told me about MPE with a little wry smile on his face, and that was it. I went home and I made the first payment. I had no money, I had nothing. I had this little metal tin and I had to open it with a can opener, I took all the money out, I straightened it all out. It was £398. So that's where I started with in March. I made the first payment. I didn't have anything for the second payment. I was pretty much flying by the seat of my pants. I just made a commitment. Diagnostic consultation came up. I had no answers for Hannah. I didn't have a clue what she was talking about. Showing about 1, 2, and 5 year goals and visions, and you know, I mean, I was just like, I just knew that I felt really disappointed and I wanted it to change. So someone told me the other day that an entrepreneur can be defined as someone who jumps out of an airplane and learns how to open the chute on the way down. So that's it. I've only heard it the other day, and I was like, that's me, you know. I was like, that's exactly what I've done. So it was terrifying, but you know, and I think the great thing about the analogy is as well, you can't unjump yourself back into the plane. It's not like dipping your toe in. You're gone, that's it. So there was a full commitment, and I was off. A month in, all this enthusiasm, you know, and I made a loss, my first ever. I didn't have enough money for the second payment, and I lost £228. So they gave me 30 days grace to continue the program. So what do? I wrote a letter out to everyone telling them I was going to open a studio. And I told them that we'd need to raise the rates. You know, we did the RTR. Double my prices, and some guys left, and I didn't miss them. I think Sean said about those clients that you really don't miss. I was, okay, off you go. We didn't miss any of them. The guys that stayed were invested. They're invested in what we're doing. They covered our losses anyway with the new rates, and we produced better results and also raised the rates. Whether I had faith in myself, it made me have to be better. I had to start acting like these other guys, you know, and they were coming up, they were early, they were on time, they set stuff up for the clients, and they worked extra hard. And that, you know, I was accountable to the finance stuff that I signed up to with MPE and everything else. So I guess I started producing better results, and other people could see this, and the new consoles started coming in. And then I got to use the autocloser. So you're probably wondering what I sold from there. So from my £398, to date, I sold £36,106 of personal training. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. 71% of my clients have paid up front, so it's about 25 grand in revenue. My average ticket price, I just figured this out the other day, I was amazed. It was £169 in February before MPE. In October to date so far, it's £2,106, which is just ridiculous. But we didn't stop there, so I sent a letter out to everyone telling them I was going to open a studio, and so open a studio we had to. I took out a 12 grand loan. We had 20 grand revenue about 3 months in July. And you know, when I became ill, when I lived here, I went up to live with my family, and I really found it important to go up and show my gran that I was okay. So I've got this big 4x4, and I took her everywhere around Scotland. She's 94, but she's like, you know, she's a party girl. She's really young at heart, so I went up there and showed them I was all right and gave something back as well. I took a week off. When I come back, it was studio time. So I took this little tiny space. It's purposefully small. It cost me £300 a month in rent and utilities. And we worked on it. I worked about 320 hours in the next 4 weeks, and I'd never do it again. It was horrendous. There's so many things that I would not repeat, but we turned it into this space. And I don't know, I think it looks kind of awesome. We've got a little bistro set in a jasmine plant. And of course I needed help, so I hired a first trainer. I didn't know how to do any of this stuff. I was just doing stuff. It's hard. I hired a first trainer and a part-time admin. Yeah, and there's some clients in there. I guess for me, none of this stuff was easy. I didn't know how to do any of it. Like I said, I jumped out the plane and I made that commitment, and I had to learn on the way down. Sales was horrendous. I used to tell people when they turned up to the consultation, I don't like sales. I don't do that, I just work here. So I used to tell them stuff like that. I had to do everything. I had to do psychotherapy, I've got my therapist, she's great. I did affirmations, visualizations, I did, you know, NLP, I've got little anchors to try and calm myself down. I was speaking to my therapist one day, and she said, you know, every time I close a sale, I say, how are you feeling? And they go, I'm nervous. And you know, I realized that they were actually bouncing off of me. I was scaring them because I was so nervous in a sale. So I had to do a lot of personal development. And the marketing as well, it started off as, you know, oh, we can't approach people or do this, it's all manipulative, and people are going to judge me and they're going to reject me, and you know, all these fears. And it turned into actually a growing empathy with these people. Like, I don't look at people and think, oh, you know, why, you know, how are they going to scare me next? It's more like, what do they want and how can I help them? And that's changed me a lot, and that's really liberating feeling. And our business has an identity and, you know, a voice and a USP. So the next bit for us, really, how to build a better burger. That looks disgusting, doesn't it? Good. So I was kind of just about to open a studio, and I was really struggling. I was at capacity. I get to capacity really quick because it was just me. And Stacey Wisher told me to read the E-Myth. And I read the E-Myth, and there's this bit in it that says, pretty much everyone in this room can make a better hamburger than McDonald's. But McDonald's are really, really good at delivering the hamburger into people's hands, billions and billions of people's hands around the world. So it's all about building a better burger for me right now. I need to stop growing because I went really fast for a long time, and I'm a bit guilty of doing too much and trying to go too far at once. So just slowing down and really perfecting the systems, and, you know, making sure our clients are happy, and, you know, growing our USP in our protocols and client retention systems, and switch and stick campaigns and things like this, and just making sure it really, really works well. It's come quite far in 6 months, but then basically the goal is over the next 6 months is to make sure that everything works really well and we can duplicate it. So it's a long way to come in 6 months from £398 in a tin to your goal is, you know, about £4.5 a month. We're not very far off that at all. We're probably about £500–600 off that now. And once everything works really well, I duplicate my model in a larger space. So, and it's about, well, 2,600, I can't even say that number. So my story is really a personal one. I started off with, well, I had mental health disorder, and I suppose really, all it really was is a negative mindset. And, you know, even when I was really ill, I was always looking for someone to come, and I might have been justified a bit, like feeling bad about it and what happened to me, but no one can come and save you. So the little things that I got from MPE, you know, about taking personal responsibility, it doesn't matter what your circumstances, you have to take personal responsibility for your life and for your success. And, you know, that courage and that faith to jump out of that plane, I guess it's really just completely transformed myself and quite a lot of other people in the room over the last 6 months, 6 to 12 months. So to recap, £398 turned to 36k worth of sales, 12 grand loan, a lot of confidence, a lot of self-belief, and a big, big vision for the future that I won't mention too much because you'll probably all think I'm mad. But I've opened a studio really quite quickly. I've employed staff, and I've already begun living my dream life, because for me that's, you know, I don't know if living your dream life might mean to some people that you have lots of material things, but I know that they'll materialise along the way, but I've already begun that, and I know that this is kind of like the start of my big journey. And see, Heidi knows what I'm talking about. Once you can see it and you can feel it, it really does materialise. There's a map in your mind and it changes, and all your behaviour and everything you do from that point leads up to that place. So I've already started it, and even this talk is kind of like a confirmation of that. It's a manifestation of something that I wanted to do, and it's just a bit wild that I started the public speaking journey here now, which is a bit crazy. But I've probably finished a little bit early, but I'd like to thank you all for sharing that opportunity with me. I hope I did my story some kind of justice. And if you've got any questions about what I did and how I implemented and how I changed things, then by all means, I'd like to meet you over the event. And yeah, have a good one. Thank you.